Hey guys, I'm here today with Marisa Oka. I'm so excited because she is my hometown's dirty little secret. And I cannot wait to speak with you guys about what we're talking about today, pole dancing. So welcome, Marisa.
Hi.
Marisa is first and foremost a mom, and she's a friend, and she's my new teacher in pole dancing, which I never thought in a million years I would do. And Marisa started this, and the reason I want to do this interview are two reasons. One is because I want to talk about women's sexuality, body shame, the stigma of what pole dancing is, and also I want to talk with Marisa about finding her passion, because at Women for One, that's what we do. We talk to women and men, inspiring people that have really identified their passion and stepped into their purpose in life. And I really feel like Marisa has done that. And I'm really honored to speak with her because I've met a lot of women in my life, and I had this instant connection with Marisa the minute I met her. She has this beautiful way of honoring that feminine, powerful place in every single woman that I've ever seen her come into contact with. And she's also just this warm heart and this open-minded person that really embodies the aspects of Women for One, because it's really about every single woman at Women for One. It's not about just the woman on her spiritual path or the woman that's a businesswoman or a mom. It's honoring the uniqueness of every single woman in the world. So welcome, Marisa.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored that you're here in my space. I really appreciate it.
And I'm so excited to be sitting here in a pole dancing studio, because I haven't been to this one. You have two studios that you started in 2008 in the local Seattle area. And I think us having this discussion today is so important and valuable for all of the women around the world and moms. We're both moms, right?
Absolutely.
So your name is Spinderella.
Yes.
And so I want to first start to talk about the evolution of that name before we get into talking about your passion around pole dancing.
Well, for me, it was very, very simple. It was the transformation of self. When I first got started with it, I noticed such a big transformation in myself. And it wasn't groundbreaking. It was just in the simplest ways. I'm really loving my body along this journey. It's been such a change and so wonderful and so quiet. I just felt very empowered by it. I'd never struggled with the name. It came to me very quickly. So ultimately, Spinderella is the transformation of self. Yeah.
So transformation of self. So if you think about like Cinderella, right? Yeah, that's where it came from.
Absolutely.
So can you talk a little bit about the metaphor around that?
Absolutely. It's from going from that traditional rags to riches kind of thing, but it's on the inside. And it quite frankly, my husband, when I first started this journey and I was just a student, noticed that little transformation, the light in my eyes, the way I would step in, kind of own my body. And I was in sweats and a t-shirt and no makeup on. So I still felt really good about myself, holding myself up in a certain way. And for me, that transformation was something I needed to honor in everybody. And as I started to discuss that with people in my life, that meant a lot to me. It's an emotional journey as well. They validated that and they represented that. They mirrored all of my feelings with very positive feedback. So it was very natural to go with Spinderella.
It's just such an exciting name too. It's fun and
it rolls off the tongue really.
And you have it on your car.
I do.
And so a lot of women ask you what it's about, right?
I have funny stories regarding that. I did have it on the first car that I owned, and I was so proud. And picking up my children at in the drive-through at school, and people say the most random things when they see it. You see the wings. It's kind of girly, and then all of a sudden you're asked about what is that name, and I literally, this lady pulls up next to me and rolls her window down, and she says, "What is a Spinderella?" And I said, "Well, I'm a pole dance studio in the local area," and I kid you not, she couldn't have been more shocked, more mortified that she even spoke with me, and she uttered these words to me. She said to me, kid you not, word for word. I hope she sees this interview because I'm quoting her. She said, "I don't think I could do that because I have a hysterectomy." And I literally said back to her as she's rolling up her window, we don't use our uterus on the pole. So it was one of those
But isn't it
things.
so interesting?
It
I mean,
is.
we live in a very traditional city, the town that we
Absolutely.
live in, and you know,
Absolutely.
we're carpool moms. You know,
Absolutely.
like a lot of moms, and
Yes.
we pick our children up at school, and
Yes.
and you know, I find that a lot of us women that are late 30s, early 40s are in this place where they've been through childbirth. They've tried to have that idealized image of what a family means to them. Then all of a sudden, it's like I talked about in Women for One, they wake up and go, where did I go?
happened?
What happened?
Absolutely.
So I love to talk with you about that evolution for you. Like, how did this come around? I mean, you didn't just wake up one day and decide you wanted to do pole.
No. For me, pole was, as soon as I touched it, I knew I was always going to be in the world of pole. I knew I was going to be in some capacity, touching a pole, around a pole, dancing on a pole. I was home. But the evolution of becoming an instructor didn't really come until I met more amazing women that became my friends. And we all had similar but different stories where we were in our paths as women, as mothers, as wives, as career professionals. We all had the same sort of inkling to getting back to that innate feminine self. And so with our vulnerable states, we're constantly forgotten. We're constantly living up to something that is so unattainable quickly. But with pole, I just can touch that part of me so quickly and be home. And that's a nice feeling, to just be comfortable in your own skin, no matter what you look like or feel like or age like or body type or anything like that. And that to me is very special.
That's wonderful. And so you talk about how you touched the pole and you felt like you were
I was
home.
home. Yeah.
And then what happened from there? So you did that.
Yes.
So you just decided to find a class, or I mean, what?
Yes, actually, it began with one of my really, really amazing best friends in the whole wide world. She's the catalyst in all of this. She came to me and she says, I had my second child at that time. She was like literally 3 or 4 months old. And she said, do you want to take a pole? And she didn't even finish the sentence. I said, yes, sign me up. I'm in. So we started taking this. We drove to Seattle, met a wonderful pole instructor who's still in business. On my journey through all of her time that I spent with her, and then on to Divine and all of these amazing women that I've had such amazing contact with. 3 years of pole dancing as a student, and then I knew my journey was changing. I needed to be more of the teacher, instructor. That called to me more than being a dancer.
And when you talk about all these amazing women you've met, what is a typical person? I think, you know, I really want to dispel some myths for our whole community on what a pole dancer is. Like when you say you meet all different kinds of women in pole, can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. It's you, it's me, it's everybody.
Yeah.
I have not met one woman that has said to me, you know, I've never taken a pole class and loved it. Every woman that I know that has taken a pole class has loved something about it. Either she's uncomfortable to talk about it because it touched that very innate part of herself that she hasn't quite discovered, but that uncomfortable feeling is still, there's a calling for it. And when I get her to talk about it, there's usually a story behind it. It's either she's unhappy with her body or she's unhappy with where she is. It's an emotional thing. But as soon as you get her talking, and then she's like, you know, I think I'll try it again. And I win. It's so much fun. I love that. And it's every type of woman. Age doesn't matter. Size doesn't matter. Money doesn't matter, as long as you make it accessible. And that's what I've done with the pricing too. We make it accessible. We don't make it so expensive that a normal everyday woman can't afford to come to pole.
And you know, when you were just talking, I just had this big aha, because you do what I'm doing with Women for One in a different way. You allow women to step into that feminine place, touch that vulnerable way,
Yes.
the vulnerable place inside themselves. You do it through movement. And Women for One is doing it through the sharing of the stories and the wisdom, and then teaching people to walk their truth. That's what you're doing.
Absolutely.
With movement.
Absolutely. This is why we had to meet, see?
How cool is that?
I love it.
And you know, like, what's the differentiator? There is no differentiator. That's what I love about Women for One. That's what I love about you. And what you're doing is every single woman can step into this place.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter the size, the body size. You have.
We have series for that as well. It's called the Curvaceous Series.
Okay.
It's not a weight loss plan. It's a body love plan.
That's so awesome.
We teach them to move softer, slower, really appreciate their curves, And our motto is, if you love your body exactly where it is, it's only going to get better.
Right.
So music and movement is big in our world.
And better is subjective, right?
Absolutely.
Better can be just loving your body.
Exactly.
So speaking of the body, I really wanted to talk a little bit because there's so many women all over the world that have such body shame and try to live up to such standards with their bodies. And I'm actually part of a project called Stop the Beauty Madness right now that is empowering women to own who they are and really look at what that means for them. So do you have any thoughts on that?
I think it's a process, just like pole or just like anything we do, it's a process. If I try not to look at the whole picture from above, rather than take tiny pieces of a picture and put it together, and as you step back, hopefully those tiny pieces lend itself to a much better picture at the end. So often I have women say to me, I'm so glad I found you, you give me this. And I often reply, I'm glad to be a stone in your pathway, that I'm so glad that you stepped on, that I have this time with you, and it's always a place of honor. I completely let them have their moment where they're vulnerable. They've seen me vulnerable, and I think that kind of lends itself to the validity of their journey. And it's okay for me to see my pole instructor fall apart, because here she is, she's going to figure it out, and she's going to help me along the way. So our little community, we kind of push and pull each other a little bit. So ultimately we become like a family.
Right. And I have to say, I did take a class, you guys, a beginner class, and now I've signed up for the series. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into. There are so many social stigmas about pole dancing and stripping and what that means for the feminine. And I know we have talked about speaking about this because there are a lot of women out there that are saying, well, how are you giving up? How is going into heels and being sexy for you? And I wanted to talk to you and ask you what your thoughts on
Well, all
that
I
are.
can elaborate is what we do.
Okay.
Heels is not the major focus in what we do. It's just movement. Listening to the music, allowing your body to move. The heels are a tongue-in-cheek approach to being sexy, because let's face it, heels inside of a strip club, outside of a strip club, no matter where you put them on, it's a symbol of sexiness.
Right.
So
in our
it's
society, it is.
extension.
In the Western world, yes.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's just an extension of the dance, of the movement. And we approach it in such a way that when we do have a focus that is heels, we have a very fun class with it. It's not about putting on the heels and stripping. It's about owning that space. For us, it's the focus of notice when you put your heels on, your body looks longer, you walk slower, your movement is a lot more deliberate. So it helps slow you down. That's all it is. And at the end of the day, they're just heels. If you give the power away to those heels, then you've done a disservice to what we are trying to cultivate for you, which is that movement, which is that awareness. And it doesn't matter at the end of the day who puts on those heels.
Right. So you're talking about having women step into their power in the way of getting into their bodies,
Absolutely.
slowing down,
Absolutely.
owning that feminine, vulnerable nature in them.
Absolutely.
But you also, and we're going to get up in a few minutes, which I'm really excited about, you also talk about the poles as they're like beings to you.
Yes.
And I love that.
I have to illustrate on that.
Yes.
Before I step and dance on a pole, they're girls.
Okay.
My poles are girls. I know this sounds really strange, but they are my girls, as are my instructors, as you know, my girls that come in and our students. They're all my girls. But the moment the music comes on, I do change a little bit. I call them boys. They're men. I know it's a little strange, and that's something my students are getting used to referring, you know, as, oh, are they boys right now? Or are they girls right now? They're just not very sure, but I have fun with it. We say a lot of inappropriate things in class.
But also it shows that balance of the masculine and feminine.
Absolutely.
I mean, truly.
Absolutely.
You know, in your mind it sounds like that's what you've done. You honoring both.
Absolutely.
And you know, I feel like we're all trying to kind of strive for that balance in our lives anyways.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. And then there are movements that are so soft and feminine, and then there are movements that are so big and strong. So it's a way to sort of balance both of that. And I thank you for reading into that. I think that's what I'm trying to get out.
Now, kind of going back to your passion, I love that you wrote about your passion before, like as you were evolving into, because and we talk a lot at Women for One about how can I find my passion, how can I step into action around my passion. And you read me this beautiful part of the beginning of that, and I was wondering if you would just read it for us about what you wrote, what Marisa wrote as she was moving into her passion and stepping into what her vision should be. I think it's really valuable and important that all of the women hear this.
Oh, I appreciate that. I wrote, "This is my dream and my vision. When I set out to do what I do, I envisioned each woman as a whole. What does she really want, and why did she find me? I love the connection, the music, and ultimately the environment we create."
And it's beautiful. And I think there's been this theme with some of the interviews that have happened with Women for One around not being broken. And it touches me in a really special place every time I hear anybody honor the whole woman. And you were talking about how you see every woman as they walk in as whole.
Absolutely.
As a whole being and as a unique human.
Absolutely.
And I love that you honor women, and I'm really excited to walk around this studio, and I feel like now, why are we talking? I think we should just get up and
I would love
go
to
look
show
at the
you.
pole and show me what you do.
Absolutely.
So Marisa, nice outfit.
Thank you. Less clothing equals more stick.
Stick, what do you mean by that?
Well, we have the 3 S's. Well, 4 technically. We have Spinderella, you have sexy, you have stickability, and you have strength. This is called stickability. When you can stick to the pole, that's why we have less clothing.
Okay.
I know.
And speaking of the S, you heard about pole dancing, or I just started it when Sheila Kelly created the S Factor.
Absolutely.
So can you talk about what that means, the S and the S Factor?
Yes. For me, she has always been a driving force in putting pole in the forefront, and I thank her for that. Pole was never my vision. It was never created by me. I'm just an extension of what the S is, which is really belongs to every woman. It's a gift that just keeps on giving. In our everyday life, we don't think of ourselves as sexy. We open a magazine and we think we have to look a certain way to be sexy, or be a certain weight, or be a certain product, or buy a certain product is what I meant. And that's so not true. You can see me. I'm not my perfect weight. I have marks, I have bruises, I have...
You're quite beautiful.
toes.
Come on.
Thank you. The point is, I feel beautiful when I
Yes,
step up and I do this.
right, yes. So tell us about the poles a little.
Well, we do have 2 gauges, and by gauges I mean the width of the pole.
Okay.
This is a 40, and we do have another size. It's 45.
Okay.
Those are the 2 that we feature here. So if you notice, if you put your hands around the pole, you see how your fingers really almost go past the pole.
Okay.
And the other gauge, they almost meet right in the middle, which is a good thing because as women, we have different size hands and different size, hands wrap around the pole differently. So.
And body parts, right? And legs.
Absolutely, absolutely. We thank you for that.
So what do you think the greatest myth about pole dancing in a studio is? Like when people walk in?
I think that they think it belongs in a strip club, or it's a taboo. It's not discussed in everyday society, and I kind of like that. When I first started, I was very apologetic about what I do. I would whisper it, and I would say stuff like, "I'm a pole dance instructor." Nowadays, I put my chest up and I say, "I'm a pole dance instructor, and I own my own studio," and then I wait for it, because inevitably there's that giggle, that uncomfortable writhing, and it's men and women too. And so I kind of enjoy watching the reaction now.
And we talked about this a little. I want to bring up your children because when I went to your other studio that's in your backyard, which is absolutely beautiful, and your children, I asked, what is the stigma associated for your children? And you said none. And I loved it that you're raising these children that are very open about this. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, if you ask my 10-year-old daughter what your mom does, she'll say she teaches ladies to be strong on a pole, which is pretty cool.
That's very cool.
She has no problems talking about what I do. My son, 13, I asked him the other day, how do you feel about if your friend said to you that your mom's a stripper? And he said he would say that they're stupid. So I thanked him for that, and I walked away.
Because that's not what you're doing
Absolutely.
at all.
Absolutely.
No.
Yeah.
So
I'm fine with their reactions because it's their own, but they know what I do. And we've had the pole in the middle of the living room before, and it just turns into a vertical gym.
your kids go on it, right?
Absolutely. They're doing tricks, and sometimes better than me, which makes me a little sad because I have to put in the practice to get to that level, whereas these kids, they just fly up and down it. It's pretty awesome.
That's great, because when I walked in, I was so nervous. I didn't know what to expect. And why do you think there are a lot of people that are afraid to move their bodies this way and feel that powerful energy that's inside our bodies that we've spoken about?
I think that we just get stuck in a process. We get stuck in the everyday life of things, and making dinner and driving kids to school and soccer moms and work life, that we forget that we are curvy and we like our lines, and we want to be told how to enjoy those lines and how to really appreciate what your body can do. And a lot of our messages get stuck here, and pretty soon you're not swaying your hips. You're
Right.
walking around really stuck. And in our class, we teach you how to sort of release that. And sometimes the things that come out of that class is pretty overwhelming.
It is, and what I found is that it's different than the dance. I mean, I was a gymnast, so I danced, but what I loved about it was that you took us into something I call the long tide. And it just slowed my mind down, and it slowed my body down so I could get grounded enough into my body to actually experience it. Because do you feel like a lot of women and men
Absolutely.
don't feel their bodies?
We're not trained to unhook from all of the everyday stresses. So my time with them is very special. I teach them how to refocus back in a little bit. I hope that that's what they're getting, because that is my intention.
Right.
And sometimes just seeing me vulnerable and me having that moment where I'm stuck helps them kind of reflect on, it's okay if the instructor's also having a hard time, I can still come back, and there's this push-pull that happens.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's pretty cool.
And you're pretty light about it too. That's what I love.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
So what do you get out of moving your body?
Oh my goodness.
Like, what do you get out of pole? I know you have so much.
Yeah. It's this grin. Sometimes I have to go like this and unhook my cheeks because I've smiled so much in class. I've really appreciated the journey my body has taken me on. I've never said to myself to be a certain size is when I have arrived at my fullest.
Right.
I'm 42. I'll be 42 very soon, and I feel completely happy exactly where I am at. And so that, to me, is a gift, not only to myself, but also to my children, especially my daughter. So,
And to all the people you're teaching.
absolutely.
And are there any men that take pole? Or that do, like, I know that you have couples competitions and things like that.
Not competitions. We actually had a first ever date night couples spotting class. It was really fun. For the first time, these men
so
actually
cool.
touched their wives while they were on the pole. And it was so empowering and wonderful for them. They felt like it was a date night. It was special. So we're bringing it back onto our class schedule.
That's
as a
really
regular class. It was really fun.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And weren't the women a little nervous to have their husbands there? Or?
A little bit, but the ones
Or their
that
partners?
actually came were so open to it, they were ready for it. Some of them had been dating a while, some of them were married. My husband was there as well, and so involving my husband in the practice has also made it stronger and a little bit more, he's no longer in the dark about what I do or how I do it. I taught him how to climb the pole, and he did curse a lot and say stuff like, I can't believe you guys make this look sexy, and then you look good doing it. So in a way, I think he really respects what we do.
Oh, that's so awesome. Well, we're going to have Marisa show us a few moves, but first I just want to see a few moves before you show us like a piece with music. Can you just kind of show?
Well, let's start with the basic walk. I explain the path around the pole as having this circle of comfort. And as soon as someone new walks up, they don't even know how to greet the pole. So it's this almost immediate grab. Arms are flexed, arms are tired. And so we teach the first thing is how to meet your pole. So there's a very gentle sort of approach. It's palm open and fingers cross around the pole.
Okay.
I call it feathering your fingers. And then you relax your face. And then you come up onto the balls of your feet. And you just step and walk. Very easy. This outside hand is rested. And then you can change direction. Most people are not very relaxed when they do it.
I wasn't.
It's the first
yeah,
thing.
right.
It's the first thing we talk about is how to meet your pole and how to have that space between you and the pole be something of a natural thing. We talk about pulling and pushing and sort of swaying your body in a way that feels good. And pretty soon practice becomes normal, and then it becomes something that you naturally do.
It's so cool because like the pole could be like a reflection of who you are.
Absolutely.
And that boundary where you learn how to interrelate with everybody in the world.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could learn so much. You could dig so deep into pole, right?
Yes, and this is why I think we also approach it with a sense of humor, because we do touch those vulnerable spaces, something that we haven't practiced in our normal life. So I have a sense of humor about things, and I do say inappropriate things in class. I do have them sign a disclaimer that it's okay that I say those.
Good for you.
But it's so much fun to see that woman step out and have no apologies about the space she has taken up.
And who she is.
Absolutely.
In all her glory and power, in her feminine. That's beautiful.
And vulnerable state too. It's okay to fall apart.
Oh, isn't it?
It's okay.
I do when I work out, so I can imagine I'll be doing it during my 6-week intro to pole. So thank you.
It's going to be so amazing.
Well, I am so honored to have spoken with you, and I'm so excited for you guys to see the end here. So thank you again.
It's my pleasure.
All right. Oh, it's so awesome. Thanks. Thanks everyone for watching. Come see us at womenforone.com. See you soon.